Game over, man. Game over. Johnny.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
So serious.
Roll out.
I am Iron Man.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the InSession Film Podcast.
Welcome to episode 100 for January 18th, 2015, and I'm JD Duran.
And I'm Brendan Cassidy.
Thanks for joining us this week, everybody. I'm really excited about this show as we are going to be celebrating our 100th episode, which is going to be really fun. And, you know, before we get going into it and introducing our fun guest, I got to say, I got a lot of responses either on social media or through email asking what we were going to do. And my original idea was pretty simple. I just wanted to get together with some friends to talk about movies, kind of the root of why we started this podcast to begin with. So what I did was I went out and found some familiar voices that you guys probably have heard before if you've listened to the show. And I got my good old friend Nate Parsons, ex-co-host on the show. Nate, thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me.
I also found Scott Pollard, fresh from Europe. Found him on the street, and I brought him in for episode 100. Scott, welcome back, man.
Yeah, I made it back, so thanks for having me on.
And going back all the way to our very beginning, episodes like 1 through, I think, 12, Matthew Mason back on the show. First time in a long time. Matthew, welcome back to the show, man.
Glad to be back, guys.
So, Matthew, it's been a long time. I'm sure you've watched a lot of movies between episode 12 to now.
No, I've completely just stopped.
Just stop. Man, I'm glad that you're back. I think the last time you were on, or at least one of the last times I remember, was The Great Gatsby last year. That was a long time ago.
Let's not talk about that.
Let's not talk about that. What are some movies, man, that you've seen between now and the last time you were on?
Considering when I made my 2014 list, I put about 86 films on there. Those plus lots of others. I don't know. This year I saw like most of the Academy Award nomination films.
Yeah.
Saw Boyhood with you back in June. I think my favorite movie from this last year was The Imitation Game.
Oh, nice.
And a close runner-up for me was Guardians of the Galaxy.
Very cool. Yeah, Imitation Game was a nice surprise. I wasn't exactly sure. I will say, as far as biopics go, and Brendan, we just talked about this on our latest extra film. If you guys haven't seen Selma yet, go see Selma. Easily the best biopic of the year, I think. It's incredible. Scott, what you been up to lately, man? You were gone. You were in Europe for a long time.
Yeah.
Experiencing all those European movies that we love so much.
Yeah. I did go to a lot of cool theaters over there. That was cool. I didn't see so many European movies. So. No subtitles. No English subtitles.
But
so
you saw Most Violent Year, which I'm really jealous still about.
That was good. There was a scene in Spanish, which I did not know what happened in because I did not have my subtitles.
They kept that. Yeah.
I'll get to rewatch it and gain another scene. But yeah, it was.
What was your favorite thing about Europe?
Favorite thing about Europe, probably just how easy it is to get everywhere. The metros are awesome. You know, you never have to get in a car anywhere. And then I get some really good food. You know, lots of Nutella crepes, Nutella everything, basically ice cream. So lots of good food and stuff.
How you doing, Nate?
I'm doing good. I just got back from Australia.
They just got back from Australia.
So I'm kind of wiped. But
yeah.
He snuggled a koala bear.
Okay, so it's been a while since Nate's been on. I think the last time you were on was talking Veronica Mars way back in the springtime.
Yeah.
So the first thing I got to say to you is Interstellar still sucks.
No. Interstellar was great.
That movie is atrocious on all kinds of levels.
No.
The plot makes no sense.
Love transcends plots.
I wouldn't go that far.
But the love part of that movie isn't earned either.
Yeah, you guys did not like it. I heard you last week talking about it.
You
guys, all three of you guys hated it.
Yeah, it was easily the most disappointing movie of the year for me. Maybe of the last 5 years, quite honestly.
Wow.
No, I think that was Transformers 4.
No, that if you want to talk bad movies, that probably is in more of that category for most people.
Yeah, I wondered why it wasn't on your list. I was listening for it on your top 10. And
No, not quite going to make my top 10. But in fact, Transformers 4, the more I think about it, is probably my least favorite of all the Transformers movies. I didn't hate it like most people did, obviously, but Interstellar is still terrible, though. I can't stand that movie.
wrong.
I don't know if you guys have followed that movie on Twitter or online at all. It's easily the most divisive, most polarizing film of probably the last 5 years. It's been crazy how polarizing. People either love it, like you two, or they hate it, like me and Brendan do.
I'm kind of in between, actually. I'm more like it than not, but there's still a lot of things I don't like about it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of say that kind of jokingly. I don't think Brendan and I like hate it. I think it's just more frustrating than anything, because there's certainly things I appreciate about it. I mean, on our award show, I talked about how Hans Zimmer's score is my favorite of the year. I would also argue that the docking sequence near the third act of the film is one of the most amazing sequences I've seen all year. I mean, that was amazing. So there are definitely things I appreciate about the movie. But there's a lot that I also hate about the movie.
Would you consider liking it more if you realized that it was everything Stephen Hawking was thinking about in the theory of everything?
Maybe. I mean, the ideas, what I dislike about the movie has nothing to do with its complex ideas or the space travel itself. Like, all that's fine. It was more about a messy script that is incoherent, and most of it isn't earned. Especially the human side of it, to me, wasn't earned, which is the most disappointing part of it. I was never emotionally engaged with it. None of it really made sense. A lot of the dialogue was very clunky, and none of it really fit together. As much as I loved the technical aspects of it, so much about it just was so unearned for me. And a lot of people, apparently, because, like I said, it's a very polarizing film.
I think Nolan tries to walk the line between artsy and blockbuster too much sometimes.
Yeah.
He tries to appeal to everybody too much. You know, he
Yeah.
should pick a side sometimes. But I do like it overall. I mean, it was a really it's ambitious.
It
you
is,
know?
sure.
It's ambitious, but yeah, I don't believe it's gonna hold up in 20 years or anything.
That did look great in IMAX. And
Yeah.
sounded great.
I
too.
bet. Yeah, I didn't see it in IMAX. I wish I did.
Well, speaking of sounding, the sound editing was maybe the worst part about it.
And it was nominated for an Academy Award for sound, which I don't really understand.
Yeah.
See, I didn't have a problem. I saw it twice. I didn't have a problem either time.
I certainly did. And I know that I'm not alone in that either. I mean, there's a lot of comments about that online as well.
Oh, I had a headache for sure after
Yeah.
it was over. It was the only movie I went to this year that I had a pretty splitting headache after I got
Yeah.
it.
I mean, I can understand a little bit of what Nolan was going for as far as experience, but it's so plot heavy. And a lot of the movie is driven by that, and dialogue drives that in that film. So when the sound kind of is overbearing for that, it just takes away the experience. It doesn't add it, at least not for me, and half the internet, apparently. Brendan, you want to add to that?
No, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. Exactly how I feel about it is that I mean, you're absolutely right that we don't hate the movie. I mean, I certainly didn't hate the movie. In fact, I gave it a high grade when we reviewed it because I think I was really trying to love it and I really wanted to love it. But I mean, I agree. I think from a script standpoint, I think there are I had a lot of the same problems with the movie. I think I wouldn't say a lot of the emotional aspects were not earned, like you said. I think it was just brushed over, and it was handled in a way that I think it was the perfect way I could put it is that I think the movie was so ambitious to a fault that I think Nolan was really trying to reach for something and just couldn't quite grasp onto it. The ambition overextended its reach, and I think he tried really hard to try and juggle this heartfelt story with this technical with this story about these science aspects that Kip Thorne and even Stephen Hawking were known for. That stuff was fine. The balance just wasn't there, and I think he lost sight of where the human story needed to intertwine with that, and that's where I think when you're talking about it didn't feel well earned.
No, yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, I guess for me, what you're talking about as far as it being brushed over is why it didn't feel earned to me, because it wasn't explored. The depth wasn't there for me.
And
Right.
the Eureka moment was pretty rough.
Yeah. I will say, though, the robot, Tars or Lars, whatever his name is, was awesome.
One of the coolest things
Yeah.
this year.
It was amazing.
Part of the reason I really enjoyed it was its nods to every science fiction film
Sure.
or TV show that had gone before it, the references to Lost in Space. I mean, the 2001 sounding music, Star Trek, Star Wars, I mean, just everything. And I mean, it doesn't matter to me whether it was really good or not. I would fall in love with it just because of that.
Exactly.
Well, I can understand that idea on paper. In execution, I just can't stand the movie. But one thing that you brought up, Matthew, was its Oscar nominations. What do you guys feel about these Oscar nominations this year in general?
I mean, I know you've heard this before on Twitter, all of our listeners, but I mean, the first thing I did when I scanned through to see who was nominated was to see if David Oyelowo or Oprah or someone at least from Selma was nominated, and I'm like, they're all white. They're all white. Oh my gosh, all 20 nominations are white, and that kind of caught me off guard. I was really surprised with that. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with any nomination. I was actually quite surprised with like nominations of Laura Dern for Wild, which I
did like
expecting,
that nomination actually,
or at least like Rosamund Pike or even Marianne Cotillard. I've not seen
it's
2 Days,
deserving,
One Night,
yeah,
but I'm sure she's great in it.
She
so
is.
I was grateful to see them, but I mean, I was just so surprised compared to last year, especially where there was, I think, 4 African American actors who were nominated. And then to have none, this year, it was just really surprising.
Yeah. What about you, Scott? How do you feel?
Well, there's still a lot of movies I haven't seen, unfortunately, from 2014, which kind of makes me hesitant to comment. But I mean, overall, I saw a lot that I liked, especially Ethan Hawke. That was cool that he got nominated because I've been waiting for that forever. I know he has no chance to win, but it's okay. He's nominated.
He's not going to win.
Yeah, no. But overall, I liked it. I mean, I still kind of wish they would go to like a 10-picture Best Picture field and just keep it like that because I don't like this 5 to 9 or 5 to 10 crap. But I mean, I think overall, the biggest snub to me was probably the Life Itself documentary about Ebert.
Yeah,
I was
that
just
was
like,
a big
that's
one.
got to be nominated.
Strange.
So other than that, it wasn't too bad. What about you guys?
I mean, I haven't seen, like Scott said, I haven't seen all of the, nominated movies or actors or whatever. But I'd say for me, the Whiplash director, he didn't get nominated, did he?
I don't think he did.
No, he did not.
He didn't. Yeah.
Damien Chazelle was not nominated for Best Director. And in fact, I would have liked to see him take the spot that Bennett Miller for Foxcatcher had for Best Director. I have no idea what he was doing there.
Yeah, I agree. Or the director for Selma could have been there as well.
I would love to see Ava DuVernay up there as well.
Deserved it a lot more.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you about Foxcatcher, and I know we were talking about this a little bit on the extra film, Brendan, but I mean, I liked that movie overall. I didn't love it. And if you're going to nominate Steve Carell, he needs to be in the supporting actor category. He is not the lead in that role. That is Channing Tatum's movie. And if you're going to nominate anyone, nominate him. And I think he is kind of deserving of it, quite honestly, especially over Carell, if you're going to nominate any actor from that film.
Did his nose get nominated?
I think that's what it was. It's like you put on a prosthetic nose, automatic nomination. Yeah. That's really all that it is. What about the Lego movie? That's pretty trash, right?
Yeah, that just, when I was scrolling through them on Thursday morning, nothing else incensed me more than seeing the Lego movie left off. I don't know what the other nominations were besides Big Hero 6 and How to Train Your Dragon 2, which I loved both films. But come on, the Lego movie was one of the most literary animated films I've ever seen, more socially and culturally aware as far as an animated film goes, and then it gets left off. Plus, it was Legos. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, if anything shows the ages of the voters, it's that being left off.
Yeah.
There's probably people who didn't play with Legos.
Legos,
don't care about it. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Did you guys see the tweet by the director?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Oh yeah.
What one of them tweeted, it was a picture of an Oscar trophy made out of Legos, and he's like, "Don't worry, guys, I made one."
Yes.
That's awesome. It was great. It got 30,000 retweets and stuff. It was so fantastic. Yeah, I agree. It absolutely needs to be there. I mean, I can understand sort of why they left it off, but not really. I mean, I think the reason that they left it off is kind of cheap, and it's a little part of the movie. I mean, granted, it has a big part to do with the movie, but it's still, I don't know, it's superficial reasoning, if you ask me. But I mean, I still wouldn't vote for it. I mean, How to Train Your Dragon 2 would get mine, or the Tale of the Princess Kaguya. Those would be my 2 votes. But I think it absolutely deserves to be there in the conversation, at least. And it's not. It's kind of sad.
Did the Academy give rationale for why they left it out?
Well, without spoilers, I think it, from what I've read, it has to do with the ending of the film.
Yes, I understand. It's not a pure animated.
It's not 100% animated, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
So it's because it's 99.9% animated.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah,
Is that one of the rules or something that has to be?
I don't know. I don't even know if that's true. From what I've read, it's just kind of rumored reporting. That's what it is.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
And I kind of assume that too. Maybe it was almost like I was trying to give the Academy the benefit of the doubt, not to not make it seem like that they disliked the movie or like the other nominees better. Because I mean, granted, going into the Oscar nominations before they were even announced, people would have predicted the Lego Movie being the winner of Best Animated Film, and it wasn't even nominated, which is the real shock. I think it may have had to do with the fact that, basically the final act of the film, and we'll just kind of leave it at that. It was interesting, though, because when they were listing the nominees, and I was watching it live, and I didn't see the Lego Movie up for Best Animated Film, my first thought was, oh, okay, that's neat. They're going to save it for Best Picture. That's neat. We're going to see an animated film for Best Picture. But we still didn't get that.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have seen it going to Best Picture. In fact, a lot of rumors early on, especially after it came out, was that. I mean, there was a lot of talk about it being good enough, but apparently you never know with the Academy.
And
you never know.
There were 2 more slots.
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
they could have.
Which should have gone to a Nightcrawler for sure. Which I think is amazing and is mostly well reviewed. So I don't know. I mean, they could have at least filled those 2, because for me, The Theory of Everything absolutely doesn't deserve to be there. I wouldn't have put The Imitation Game on there either, as much as I liked it. And American Sniper. I mean, we'll talk about this next week on the show, but I would have taken that off as well. So I don't know. For me, I was very disappointed overall with the nominations this year. On top of, you could say some of the controversy, as Matthew was talking about earlier.
You were just scrolling through the nominations. Did I see Meryl Streep for Into the Woods?
You did. That's another thing that drives me nuts. Okay.
It doesn't matter what she's in; she must be nominated.
I swear, Meryl Streep can film an entire movie. Meryl Streep can film an entire movie of her just taking a
and she would be nominated. Oh my gosh. She doesn't need to be there. I mean, I love her.
I think that's what she did in Into the Woods.
And you wouldn't be alone in that sentiment either. But I mean, I liked her in that movie, but she doesn't need to be there. And I feel the same thing with Robert Duvall. I liked him in The Judge, but it's not Oscar worthy. He doesn't need to be there either.
He's part of the club, and I think that's where and that's my disappointment with a lot of these nominations. Especially my biggest example is the Best Actress category. Because I don't know if you guys will agree. I know JD, you and I will agree. Of the women that are nominated, the real winner is Rosamund Pike for Gone Girl.
Yeah.
And that would be my pick. I'm sure that would be your pick. But we all know Julianne Moore is going to win, and it's really because she's in the club. She's been nominated a few times already. The Academy is dying to give her an Oscar, and now she has something that catches some people's eye. It's not, in my opinion, it might not even be her best performance. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I think it's more of a political thing more than anything else. It's like, let's nominate our buddies and finally give our friends the opportunity to win an award now, because we feel like it's now their time, regardless of what we're nominating them for.
Yeah, and it's a performance that fits the quote-unquote cliche of what they like to vote for anyway. I mean, it's a good performance, and it's one that I'm okay with being nominated. I mean, I really do like her in it, but it's not a Rosamund Pike performance. I mean, in fact, she would maybe fit 3rd on that list for me, quite honestly. I agree with you. It's all about the politics.
Yeah, definitely one of the biggest drawbacks about the Oscars is they try to reward people who they missed last time, and you end up getting a list of things that aren't necessarily the best, But it's cool to be nominated. I think that's the main thing.
Anything else about the Oscars that jump out to you guys?
Emma Stone getting nominated. I just remember when she popped up on the scene about 8 years ago or so in her first movie in Superbad, and now to see her already nominated, I just thought that was kind of cool, and I loved her performance in Birdman.
Yeah, me too.
As well as every actor in that movie.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool.
Who's hosting the Oscars this year?
Neil Patrick Harris.
Which is exactly why Rosamund Pike should win.
Yes.
That moment would be amazing.
They've got to do some kind of, hint at that during
Absolutely.
Just come up behind them like with a knife or something.
Would be amazing. I guess another thing I'll touch on, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I know this is something that Brennan and I appreciate, is for Best Cinematography, they nominated the foreign film Ida, which is something you don't see a ton of. And so it was good to see that film not only get nominated for Best Foreign Language Film, but also for cinematography, because it was easily top 2 for me as far as cinematography goes. I mean, I think we all know who's going to actually win it, but I think it's awesome that it's there.
What do you think's going to win it?
Oh, Birdman. If Birdman doesn't win, it's crazy.
I'd agree with that.
So
I didn't see Dick Poop's Mr. Turner.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, Dick Poop's cinematography for Mr. Turner is great. I'm glad to see it nominated here, as it had good camera work. I'll say it was good stuff. What were you going to say, Brendan?
I know. I was just going to say 2 things, but Dick Pope, I loved his response to the whole Dick Poop thing, where on Twitter apparently he said, "I've been called worse."
Yeah.
I thought that was actually kind of funny. But secondly, and I know we said this a lot, JD, but I agree that Birdman Emmanuel Lubezki specifically will probably win Best Cinematography this year, and rightfully so. But if he doesn't, it just shows how politically meaningless all the awards are in general, because he won last year for Gravity. And if he doesn't win just because he won last year, I mean that's bull if you ask me.
Yeah, if you talk about who's in the club, Roger Deakins could definitely steal that because he's so well liked in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So you could see that, even though it's totally not deserving.
Yeah, although that is the best part about Unbroken, if you ask me. So, Nate, what do you think about screenplay? You think Boyhood's going to win?
I couldn't tell you. I haven't seen it yet.
Well, you haven't seen Boyhood?
Nope.
What the heck is the matter with you?
I haven't seen the Grand Budapest Hotel either.
Do you like Wes Anderson?
Yeah, he's okay.
It's hard to tell then if you're going to like it or not. I loved it. I think it's amazing.
It's the most like the most hyperbolic version of Wes Anderson that he's ever done. Like everything that he normally would do to a nuance, he does like full throttle.
Yeah.
So you better if you like him, you'll like it. If you don't, I don't know how you're gonna feel.
It's very Wes Anderson-y, that's for sure. Although it has some more dark material in this than in a lot of his other movies, so you may like it on that level, because I know you like darker kind of stuff.
Yes, that's why I would vote for Nightcrawler.
Yeah, I love that movie. And speaking of, why is Jake Gyllenhaal's name not mentioned here either? Easily the best performance of the year.
I wasn't a big fan of Nightcrawler as a film, but I did love his performance in it, and I was pretty shocked. I mean, Steve Carell, yes, good job, Foxcatcher. But Jake Gyllenhaal was a lot better than him, and that needed to be nominated. Maybe
all Gyllenhaal needed to do was put on a prosthetic nose then. And then automatic, right?
He was also good in Enemy, right? I haven't seen that yet.
He's very good in Enemy.
Yeah.
See, that's a performance in a film that'll fly under the radar for a lot of people, but his performance, I think, is just as good there. It's incredible stuff. Real fast before we move on to anything else, Nate, I wanted to ask you about score. Do you think Hans Zimmer, is this his year?
I mean, he'd get my vote. I don't know who else is nominated.
Wait, has he never won? Has Hans Zimmer never won?
He won for The Lion King.
Okay.
But I think that's it, right? I don't think he's
been
won
a long
anything
time,
else. Yeah.
I can already predict what I think is going to win Best Score, and that's The Theory of Everything.
Yeah,
I would agree.
And I don't think it's deserved. In fact, I wouldn't have even nominated it. I don't even remember how that score sounded.
I mean, it's fine. I mean, I've listened to that and The Imitation Game, which I think is the two candidates that they're going to vote for the most, and they're both okay scores. None of them have the impact that Zimmer's Interstellar score had. I mean, if you love Interstellar, I think you're immersed in that world partly due, or a big part to do with the score there. I mean, it was a big reason why I kept going with it as much as I was taken out of the film by the script. So, I mean, I think it absolutely deserves it. I mean, it's so a part of that world. It's incredible. All right, well, one thing I wanted to ask you guys about, because Nate and I got into this conversation last week, was we were talking about just kind of our experience with film in general and how we approach that kind of experience. So, I'm the kind of guy that if I can see a film in theaters, I absolutely try to do that. I think film in general it's made to be experienced at a theater with, all the sound there, the crowd and everything. I think all of that adds to what I think is what you're supposed to feel when you go there. But Nate was telling me how he likes to watch a lot of film, especially like indies and art film, at home by himself, and that's the best way for him to experience that. I certainly don't relate with that. I highly disagree with it. But I think it's an interesting conversation. So I'd like to toss it to you first, Matthew and Scott. I mean, do you guys prefer to see it in a theater, or would you rather see some films at home in your living room by yourself?
I think I'm on board with you, JD. I'm quite a purist when it comes to seeing things in a theater. I mean, if it's a movie that I know is going to be not so great, I don't mind missing it. Like, I missed Top 5. It might be a great movie, but I don't feel I missed out on not seeing it in the theaters. But like a great example for me of why I love going and seeing movies in the theaters was when I saw American Sniper on Friday. I was sold out for one first sold out movie I've ever encountered in Kentucky, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so much so they had to start another showing. Well, 2.5 hours and the movie's over, and not to spoil anything, but at the end, the entire theater was silent. As everyone left, no one spoke.
Yeah.
And I have never experienced a crowd exodus that was completely silent. The people I was with, I didn't talk to them for 4 minutes. I mean, something like that, and just to see the impact of being around people I know and people I didn't know, in that, just that collective experience was enough for me to reinforce why I love going to the theater. So in general, I will almost always pick theater over home viewing experience.
Well, I think seeing it in the theater is the best for anything. Something like Moonrise Kingdom comes to mind. I probably wouldn't have laughed near as much at home by myself at Moonrise Kingdom, and I've watched it since then. I didn't enjoy it as much as I did in the theater. But I will say I do like watching documentaries and a lot of stuff that doesn't rely on effects at all at home, simply because I don't have to pay the $10 to see it, for one thing.
Sure, yeah.
And, you just can't always be at the theater. Something like the Planet of the Apes movies that are newer, I was going to watch those on the plane on the way back because I had like 10 hours to all of these free movies. And I was like, I started it and I was just like, I can't do this to this film. I can't watch it on this little tiny 4-inch screen or whatever.
Yeah.
But there are always something, there's always something I can pick that's less... It's less damaging to it, I think, than it would be, had you not seen it in the theater. So,
what about you, Brendan?
I mean, I'm mostly on board with what you guys have just been talking about. That when it comes to choosing to watch a movie in the theater versus at home, more than likely I will choose to have the theater experience. But there are occasions for specific types of movies that I don't mind, or would sometimes even prefer watching in the comfort of my own home. But granted, being a little bit more specific, when I'm talking about watching something at home, I'm talking about watching something on my TV in a nice projection of it, not like a stream on my laptop or anything like that. I would never prefer to do that unless I have to watch it that way.
Sure,
But there are some. I mean, for movies like I guess Nate was kind of using art house and films of that nature. There are some movies like that sometimes I would prefer to watch in the comfort of my own home, because an isolated viewing of it can sometimes allow me to concentrate more on certain things and digest it better in a more personal way sometimes. And I've had great experiences watching foreign language films for the first time just at home on my own TV, and then I was able to really kind of digest it better by having an isolated experience, I guess. But for the most part, I would much rather have the theater experience, because a lot of times, especially for comedies as a good example, I think you need companionship with other people to really kind of appreciate it, because then you can kind of discuss it right afterwards, right away. And I love having that opportunity as well. And that goes for any movie, even if it's an action movie, a comedy, a thriller, or even a drama, and you want to try and digest what it was actually about. But there are some cases I would actually be okay taking the at-home viewing over it, though.
I think you make a great point about the foreign language films, because you don't have to look as far with your eyes. Your eyes don't have to move as far to see the eyes. I really didn't think about that, but that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. All right, Nate, I'll let you kind of battle your position here, if you will.
I mean, for me, something like Avengers, Transformers, yes, I'm going to go see that in theater every time. But something like Whiplash or even Nightcrawler, I just prefer to watch those. Usually I watch them in my bed with my laptop, with my headphones in, at 1 in the morning. So there's just no distraction whatsoever. There's no cars going down the street. There's nobody walking around. There's nothing else going on. Because in the theater, there's just too many distractions that take me out of the experience. somebody's on their cell phone, somebody's talking, somebody's walking across the screen, you know, or somebody laughs at a part that's not funny, and then just in my head I'm thinking, well, why did he laugh? That guy's an idiot. So then I'm not even paying attention to the movie. So there's a lot of distractions that, you know, I just don't really like dealing with.
Yeah, I watched Foxcatcher the other day here in Fayette County, and I had a guy in the theater. He said out loud, very loud, "This is the stupidest movie I've ever seen. Stupid, 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 stupid." He kept saying, I was just like, man, shut up, you know? So yeah, it can be annoying.
I guess it's an interesting point that you bring up, Nate. I still would argue that a theater experience is going to make it a much more full experience altogether, even though you do make some interesting points, Brennan, about foreign language films. Even though in the end I would still prefer to see it in the theater, I guess for me, if the film is good enough, it's going to immerse me in the world anyway, that the distractions at the theater aren't going to bother me a whole lot. And I had that experience very recently with Inherent Vice. I've watched it twice now, once in the theaters and once at home, and the theater experience was 1,000 times better. Just because there was people there that I could laugh with, that I could experience that movie with, that I would have never have had the exact same reaction to it, I don't think, if I watched it at home. And watching it at home is nice because I guess I can concentrate a little bit more on the plot if I wanted to, even though I argue all day long the movie's not about the plot. But I had an amazing experience to where I love that movie. In fact, it's in my top 10 of the year because I loved it so much. And I don't think it would have gotten there if I watched it at home first. And I had kind of the same experience with American Sniper. I watched it at home first, and then I watched it in the theater the second time. Had a much better experience the second time around, even though I still have some issues with that movie. So for me, I just always have a better experience when there's people around. I can talk to them right afterwards. I can laugh with them. I can cry with them whenever I am there. Even though there's going to be the distraction, overall, it just gives me a richer experience. And that's, to me, I think what film is all about, is having that experience. I just don't get it at home by myself, unless I'm watching something like I would prefer, like if I was ever going to watch 50 Shades of Grey, that I might watch at home. I'm not very comfortable watching that kind of material in a theater with people, so maybe that kind of context is a little different, but everything else, give me the theater every time.
Just to the same point, Nate, you talked about distractions. Actually, when I saw Foxcatcher a few weeks ago up in Cincinnati, the air conditioning unit was vibrating the entire time, every time it was on, and I would just go, what is going on? Like, does someone not realize this is happening right now? And Foxcatcher is such it's slow, not in a derogatory way, but I mean it's slow paced purposefully. It's about just sitting on a character and feeling a mood, and not necessarily trying to progress the plot forward.
Sure.
And I love that, but for a movie like that, it was kind of like, oh my gosh, like all I can think about is the fact that this air conditioner is vibrating the entire time instead of paying attention to the performances. Eventually, I tuned it out, and half hour into the film. But I mean,
sure.
First half hour, I mean, I get a lot what you're saying, Nate.
Yeah.
That stuff can be really
distracting. It can be, yeah. Well, speaking of, do you guys have any other stories like that where your theater experience was ruined by something crazy like that?
Well, I certainly have a lot of stories, but I wanted to say that, like in Europe, the theaters we went to, so everybody stays through the credits. Nobody gets up and leaves until the credits are completely over.
Nice.
The lights don't go up.
I love that,
nothing happens. That's really cool, and nobody talks over there. And if somebody does talk, they say, shh. Everybody in there is like, oh,
the credits are on.
Like immediately, they're like, shut up, don't stand up in front of people. I mean, they're much more purist, I guess you would say, much more cinephiles. But yeah, so many annoying people. It's terrible.
What about you, Brennan? Any fun experiences in the theater?
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite ones was one time when I went to see The Dark Knight back in 2008. Huge crowded house. Two things that just got me completely took me off guard as to first off, someone brought their infant baby with them to see The Dark Knight with them.
That's just terrible parenting.
Every time something loud happened, so for example, like the pencil disappearing trick, the baby would start crying.
Oh my god!
Oh my god! And then one of your examples, Nate, about someone maybe like on their phone or something like that. In the middle of that movie, the people next to me, well, it was a father and his son. The phone rang, and the son answered the phone in the middle of the movie, and didn't even get up. And I look over at him, and then his father gives me the dirtiest look, like I did something wrong.
It's always your fault, right?
Yeah. He's like, my son's answering the phone because a family member's calling. He's like, screw you, this is important. He's like, well, go to the fucking lobby then. It's like, we're all trying to watch a movie here. But I haven't had that many other bad experiences. The only most recent one was last year when actually 2013, when my family and I went to see 12 Years a Slave. The audio was just way too quiet that it was very difficult to hear. But otherwise, I haven't had that many bad experiences in the theater.
Interesting. Nate and I had an interesting experience once when the first Transformers movie came out. We went up to Michigan to watch it in IMAX. And we got, Michael Bay movies are always like 2 hours, 20 minutes long or whatever. And I bet we got close to, 2 hours into that movie? I mean, it was
right before the last action scene.
Yeah, it just stops and freezes. And we're like, okay, well, after like 20 or 30 minutes, the manager comes out and is like, sorry, it's being fixed right now, but here's some free passes. You can come back, whatever. Well, the theater that we at was like an hour and a half away from where we were going to college at. We were never going to go back. And they were, waiting to fix it, and they were going to show it again later. So we decided, well, what the hell? We'll just stick around here for an hour or so, just wait for the next showing. So we went to like Barnes and Nobles or whatever and screwed around for a minute and went back and watched the entire thing again from beginning to end. So we essentially watched it twice at IMAX. And Nate still has his ticket from that
He's
show.
showing it to us right now. Oh, yeah.
Still has the ticket.
There's no expiration date.
So he can use the free pass to go back whenever.
Nice. That's awesome.
Which is pretty. That was like, 2007? Something like that. So it was a while ago. So that was a pretty interesting theater experience for sure.
You just reminded me, last year I have a friend who goes to watch all those Best Picture nominees. They have a weekend where you can watch. So every single one, they would show the last 3 minutes of the film or so, like literally the last 3 minutes of the film before they would show the rest of the film. Like it would start with like 3 minutes left.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and so it would not just the credits, the actual movie. So you would see the end of the movie, and I'd already seen them all. So I was
they
like, don't
Tarantino the whole thing.
Basically, yeah, basically, and it was so annoying because the people in there had not seen it. They just thought, oh, it's starting, and it would actually be the last scene. I was like, no, nobody watch.
Oh, funny.
It turns Boyhood into Benjamin Button.
Yeah, there you go.
When I saw The King's Speech in 2010, a film that's all about sound and language. The trailers, it was made by the Weinstein Company, so the Weinstein Company trailers had this warbling sound to them as they were showing them. I'm like, oh, well, maybe it's just the trailers. And then the movie starts, and it's this like warble, like this really old, kind of like you're playing a saw sound.
Oh, interesting.
And I feel like I'm the only person noticing it. I'm sitting with my mom, and I'm like, do you hear that? And she's like, yeah, it's a little weird. I'm like, but I'm the only person who actually seems to care.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this entire movie is about sound and speech and enunciation, and I'm like, and everyone's fine. And I'm just like, no. So I saw it a different time because I couldn't handle that.
Well, on another note, do you guys have any favorite theater experiences where everything went great and you just had the best experience? So like maybe some of your favorite movies that you've ever seen in a theater. Like I know this isn't necessarily one of my favorite movies of all time, but it's definitely a favorite. But one of the more recent ones for me was, I think you were there, Matthew, when me, you, and Nate went to see Jurassic Park a few years ago in 3D. A film that, in 1994, I was like, 8 or 9 years old. I never got a chance to see it in theaters, I don't think. So to get to see it all these years later back on the big screen was pretty fun experience for me.
And that adds on to what you said about seeing a movie in the theater.
Exactly,
because
absolutely.
People should go see those classics in the theater. It changes my opinion on a lot of them. Citizen Kane I never liked before I saw it in the theater. I actually did like it after that. And The Shining especially I love. So seeing that in the theater, it is a different experience. It is.
What about you guys? Anything?
I think seeing Blazing Saddles in the theater, it's my favorite movie.
I know you love that film.
And I watched it with some friends of mine about 2 or 3 years ago. we were the only people in the theater laughing the entire time. I think everyone else was just a little too scared to be laughing at some of the inappropriate jokes.
Sure.
I think that made it just fantastic because the movie was made about 15 years before I was born. So, I mean, the chance of seeing it in the theater was really rare. And when they showed it again, I mean, to get to see a classic like that, that I could laugh and hear my own laugh in a theater, that was pretty special to me.
What about you, Nate?
I made two theater experiences that come to mind are when I went to see The Phantom Menace for the first time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the line was, it weaved through the building and then it wrapped all the way around the building outside.
That's probably going to happen again later this year, too.
Oh, yeah. And then when I went to see Avatar for the first time, that was the first 3D movie I'd ever seen, and it absolutely blew my mind. That's still, to this day, the greatest theater experience I've ever had.
Interesting. I would still argue Gravity is the better 3D movie for me anyway. What about you, Brendan?
Yeah, I've had quite a few great theater experiences. Probably one of the best ones, I think, was a movie that is one of my favorite movies. If it's not quite like top 20 or anything like that for me, but it really is the movie that was like a turning point for me as far as appreciating film in another way. And that was the first time I saw The Departed on screen. Great movie, but really what sealed the deal as a great theater experience was, we won't get into spoilers, but that first scene of the ending in the elevator. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
When that happened, the theater screamed, and people were freaking out when that happened. Like, I was fascinated by how people were just freaking out at that. I mean, and it's actually looking back on the movie now and looking back on just other theater experiences I've had, I was actually very surprised by how people reacted almost violently to when that happened in the theater.
Yeah.
And it would, but it was awesome. It's because the movie rightfully earned that dramatic stab to the heart.
But that's the only movie I've ever
something
seen.
I'll never forget. But that might still be my that. And then there's another movie, my favorite movie of all time, There Will Be Blood. My dad and I drove about an hour away to go see it at this theater because it was the only one in Pennsylvania that was playing it at the time. And the theater was immensely crowded. And then for that ending, too, it was amazing to see people go from this hysterical, nervous laughter to that very last moment. And then people also started screaming. And it was so fascinating how that juxtaposition in tone from laughing to utter fright then at that psychodramatic ending was just awesome. And then people were just nervous laughing throughout the entire ending credits then. It was just a neat way to really kind of engage the audience interaction with that movie. And that's another reason why I love theater experiences like that, because it really kind of gets you more dramatically invested because you realize you're feeling the same thing that the audience is feeling. But those are two big examples of some of the best experiences I've had.
What were you going to say, Scott?
Brenda, you made me think of that experience. I specifically remember sitting in the theater watching that and the shock of people when that elevator scene happened in The Departed. That was the only movie I've ever seen where I said, "Oh, that's got to win Best Picture." You know, I've never seen another movie, and it felt like the best movie of the year immediately after I saw it. So that was memorable. Also, I wanted to say that the Star Wars special editions in like the late '90s, I remember going to see those.
Yeah,
that was like an epic thing for me. Did not ever see them before that. That's the first time I saw the Star Wars movies, so that was huge for me.
Very cool. Well, getting back to something Nate was saying about the effects, I mean, what would you guys say would be some of your favorite theater experiences with effects like that? I mean, obviously, Avatar is great. I talked about Gravity, how much I love that. Avengers is another one that comes to mind. I had a great theater experience with that. It was 2012 when that came out. I mean, there was people that stood up in the theater and clapped because they loved that so much. I mean, anything along that level that kind of rises to the top for you guys?
I mean, Gravity for me, it was really cool on a 3D level. I mean, I really felt like that was the closest I'd been to being in something, so that was cool. Even though I didn't love the film overall.
Sure.
Maybe the first Transformers, especially that first scene with the first transformation.
Yeah, that was obviously a big one for me. If you've listened to the show, I've watched that film about a bazillion times. Yeah, those first couple Transformers, first three maybe, are really underrated as far as the experience goes. The one where they jump out of the helicopter and the guys are that was a great moment in film. Yeah, I mean, and that's the one thing Bay can do. As much as people hate the films because of the plot or the acting or whatever, I mean, when it comes to action stuff, he's very good about putting you in that world really well.
I think for me, the movie was not my favorite, but the sequence I saw, Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol.
Oh yeah.
In IMAX, it was one of the, I think, only IMAX films I've ever seen. And then the tower sequence when he's at the very top of that tower in, I think, Saudi Arabia, and then just looks down. And I was sitting in about the 4th or 5th row, which in IMAX is really, really close to the screen. I felt sick and queasy, like I was about to fall out of the building as well. So that's always kind of stuck with me with film. And I don't know, I saw it later in regular theater, and it wasn't the same, but something with IMAX, just seeing it that big felt pretty real.
What about you, Brendan? Anything?
From an effects standpoint, I think the one that I'm going to hold dear is actually Life of Pi.
That's the next one I was going to bring up, yeah.
Yeah, that one is the one that really I felt like I was really put into the world of that film. I felt like I was on that lifeboat the entire time.
Yeah, I love that movie.
And just the starting of the sinking of the ship and just going forward from there, I almost felt like I was getting seasick watching the movie. I felt like I was really there. And that one will probably hold the special place in my heart from an effects standpoint. But I mean, I will agree that, like the gravities and the avatars, and you know what, even another one that I think is very underrated from a 3D standpoint is Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. I hate the movie itself, but I thought the 3D in that film was fantastic because it really put you into the magical world, I thought. Yeah, that I will actually say the 3D was quite good, even though the movie itself I thought was pretty stupid. But I thought the effects in that one were quite good.
I'm surprised you haven't brought up Interstellar yet, Nate. Or are you just going to sit there and be quiet the whole time?
I mean, visually it was fine, but I wouldn't say it's like the greatest visual experience I've ever had in the theater.
Yeah, or just theater experience in general, right?
No.
I think Hugo was also my favorite 3D of all time.
Hugo's another great one. Yeah, I think that was my favorite film of that year.
I still haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's very good.
Very underrated Scorsese film. Very underrated.
Well, speaking of good movies, what about this year, 2015? What are you guys anticipating the most this year?
Mad Max Fury Road.
I just saw the trailer for that.
Yes.
The trailer for that right before American Sniper, and it was, again, why the theater adds so much to the experience. It was way better than watching it online. 1,000% better.
Oh yeah, that's with those big action movie trailers. I don't watch them on my computer screen because I don't want to. I want to see them for the first time in a theater. You know,
it was awesome.
Yeah. So I agree.
I mean, I love Star Wars, so of course, I'm looking forward to Star Wars. But I would be lying if I didn't say the Avengers movie. I had such a fun time, awesome. So cool. I have to, I got to include it.
Matthew, don't shake your head at me.
No,
don't shake your head at me.
I don't like the look of this trailer. It does not look interesting to me.
The first one or the second one, or the kind of the same?
I've not seen the second one, and then people tell me see the second one, so I know I haven't. But the first trailer was just like, oh, okay. Like, they're back together again. I mean, I don't know. I just wasn't that excited about it. I will watch it. I watch everything Marvel does. But it just didn't grab my interest. It was kind of like the Ant-Man trailer. It just was like, okay, like Paul Rudd's making fun of himself. Sure, I'll watch it, but...
Marvel has earned that one for me. As much as that trailer was kind of average, I liked it, didn't love it, but they've earned my interest already.
No, I'm with you, Matt. The trailer was underwhelming, but I guess I'm hoping that the best stuff is just not shown in it at all.
Right.
I'm just hoping like they're just not showing anything good.
Which would be a nice turnaround for a trailer. I mean, now trailers tend to give away,
exactly,
some of the best sequences. I hope you're right on that because I'm sure they've got more up their sleeve than that trailer. At least, I hope so.
What about you, Nate? What are you looking forward to?
Star Wars for sure, Avengers for sure. I love that Avengers looks like it's going to be a lot more dark.
Yeah.
A lot more serious, and there's...
You do like your dark, don't you?
I do, yes. I love my dark.
What about you, Brendan? Other than Star Wars and Avengers?
Actually, my number one movie that I'm most anticipating, and even though I worry that it might not be great because the guy who's writing it, I'm not a huge fan as a film writer, but... Probably one of my very favorite directors working today is Brad Bird, and I am very looking forward to Tomorrowland.
Yeah,
I think
me too.
Tomorrowland looks awesome. I love the mysterious sci-fi angle. The trailer itself reminded me of like this is what a magical Pixar-esque film would look like if it was live action. It just had that Disney magical aesthetic to it that just felt so surreal. And Brad Bird is known for bringing that, with his catalog of animated films. Like, I think he's done some of the best animated films of the past 10 years. You have The Iron Giant, and then The Incredibles, and Ratatouille. I think Ratatouille is one of Pixar's very best films. Yeah. And I love what he did with Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol. The eye he has for sweeping IMAX shots, and the action scenes kind of function like a visual poetry, and I love how he brings that to it. I think Tomorrowland just looks so surreal. I just hope Damon Lindelof doesn't ruin it with the script.
Yeah, we'll see about that, I guess. That's one I'm really looking forward to as well. For me, outside of the big ones, obviously Avengers and Star Wars and Mad Max and Jurassic World, one that I'm looking forward to is Linklater's next project. That's what I'm talking about, which he said is kind of a spiritual sequel to Boyhood and to Dazed and Confused, two films that I really like. And I really love Linklater in general, and so I'm pretty curious to see where this goes. And he said it pretty much picks up right where Boyhood left off, with a character moving into his college dorm room. So I'm excited to see where he goes with that. So I don't know about you guys. I love Linklater, though.
Yeah, that's a good one. I hadn't heard what that was about. But that's great. Also, Hateful Eight, Tarantino.
Yeah,
got to go. Even though I feel like I know a lot about it that I shouldn't know, but I still want to see it, of course.
Well, the script was leaked online after all.
and one I was just scrolling through new releases was Straight Outta Compton. F. Gary Gray's coming back and directing, and just to see a movie made about NWA, and the casting looks superb in the film. It does
look neat, yeah.
So I'm pretty darn excited to see it, because I like a lot of the old F. Gary Gray films from the 90s. So I'm excited to see him make another fun movie.
I'm excited for Taken 4.
Taken 4.
This time.
Yeah.
I don't know. His dog's
I still
taken.
haven't seen Taken 3 yet.
You're okay without it.
You probably won't have to bother with that, because apparently it's the exact same thing as The Fugitive.
Oh yeah, that's what I keep hearing. So.
And someone lost an arm, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
It's still your money, right? That's all it's taking.
Yeah,
really.
exactly. It's taking your money. Exactly. That movie still made like $50 million in its opening weekend.
Yeah, and it dropped 70% this week, which is a pretty substantial drop.
Yeah. And speaking of, did you hear about American Sniper? $90 million this weekend.
Whoa.
Yeah, and they're expecting with Martin Luther King Jr. Day, it'll be 105 by the time Monday gets done with. That's insane for that kind of film.
Oh, goodness.
The Oscar buzz must have helped it a lot.
Yeah. And there was a big push online, too. There was a lot of viral push for it as far as social media goes. So
I just saw it because Clint Eastwood directed it. I knew nothing about it except, hey, Eastwood did this.
Eastwood, and I like Bradley Cooper and where he's been going lately. Although I really wasn't a huge fan of Eastwood's last two films, so I was kind of at an arm's length. And I don't want to give too much away because I do have some issues with it. I don't think it's a perfect film. Like I said, I wouldn't have nominated it for Best Picture, but I do think it is a nice step in the right direction comparatively to his last two films.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's his strongest since Gran Torino. I mean, that's kind of sad to see, like, 4 movies in between there. Yeah. but I think it's his strongest offering.
Yeah. Another one that I'm looking forward to is Alejandro González Iñárritu's newest film coming out next year. I was a big fan of Birdman, obviously, if you listen to our award show. But his film coming out next year, one, he's teaming up with the same cinematographer and the film stars Tom Hardy, my boy, and Leonardo DiCaprio. So you put all those guys together, I'm definitely down for that. So I'm pretty excited for that one as well.
Yeah, Leo finally might get his Oscar because they're loving that Iñárritu guy right now.
They are.
So he may eventually get one.
Yeah. I think one that's kind of going under the radar a bit is, which I think is going to take people by surprise, is the film In the Heart of the Sea.
Ron Howard.
The story that inspired the story of Moby Dick, the real life story, and mainly because if you look at Ron Howard's track record, he is so hit or miss. But all of his hit films are all based on historical or biographical tales, and which is the case with this one now. So we might have another hit from Ron Howard on our hands, because I think some of the best biopics he's done. but everything else in between those suck. So I have no idea what's going to make of this one.
And from my understanding, they just pushed the release date back to December now.
For that one?
Yeah, because I think it was supposed to be like March, April, something originally.
It was coming out kind of soon, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm guessing because it's probably going to be an Oscar-worthy film. I was actually kind of surprised when it was a March or April release because it looked too epic for those months. So yeah, I think you're right. It'll get a lot of buzz.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't heard that, so it's not surprising though at all. I agree with you, Brennan. That's pretty cool. Anything else you guys are looking forward to this year? What about the Pixar film? You guys looking forward to that
Inside Out?
Inside Out looks pretty cool.
Looks it's fun. I think I think it'll be a good film. I just don't know if it'll be really widely well received because of the kind of just the highly conceptual idea of it.
Sure.
You know, it's not humanoid rat or talking toys. I mean, it's emotions, which is quite an intangible thing for children to see. So I'm hoping that it's like every Pixar film that can make kids entertain while simultaneously engage adults at a much higher level. So I'm sure it'll do that, but I'm just skeptical of how well it'll draw at the box office. That's what I don't know.
Well, I mean, animated films tend to do really well at the box office anyway, and you're drawing in a concept that I think is going to be interesting and really original in a lot of ways for adults. And they've made the characters very goofy that I think will at least entertain kids throughout, even if they don't get it. So, and I think Lewis Black as the character of Anger is some of the best casting I've ever seen in my life. So I think that's going to be awesome.
Pixar has 2 original movies this year, don't they? Good Dinosaur?
I'm not sure if that one got pushed back to this year or next year. I'm not 100% sure. You could be right on that. I'm not sure. Brendan, do you know?
I think at this point, I think that they are still both planned to be released this year. One, I think Inside Out's planning for this summer, and then The Good Dinosaur probably later on in the year. From what I heard, though, The Good Dinosaur has had a lot of production issues, and they've gone through rewrites and different directors. So that one I'm very hesitant about. Inside Out, though, so I gotta say, the trailers and the clips I've seen so far have not done it for me at all. And which I'm kind of worried, to be honest. I think it looks like a really cool concept on paper, but so far the execution that I've seen based on the trailer and clips look like they're missing the mark. Which, but I'm still giving it a chance because it is directed by Pete Docter, who did direct my very favorite Pixar film, and that's Up. Which I think is one of the best animated. Probably almost in one of my top 10 favorite films of all time. So I still hope that I think he's still going to capture a human story within this strangely executed story, I think. But regardless, just kind of going back to your first question, I do think they're both coming out this year.
Okay. Well, here's something, Brendan, that hasn't happened on the show a whole lot of lately. I disagree with you on the trailer, so eat that. And then secondly... we finally got to disagree on something because all these biopics, it's been, those shows have been boring. Yeah, so I disagree with you. I think the trailer looks awesome. I'm pretty excited for it, and for all the other reasons you said. I think it looks amazing. But another one I'm looking forward to is Guillermo del Toro's Crimson Peak. Is that the name of it? So it looks very much in the same vein as like The Devil's Backbone and Pan's Labyrinth. So as much as I liked Pacific Rim and I want to get back to that world, I love that he's kind of going back to some of his roots kind of filmmaking. I'm really looking forward to that one.
Are they going to be? Is it going to be in Spanish or is it an English film?
I think it's an English film, but it has this kind of dark aesthetic and mood about it that I love so much about his earlier work.
He tends to oscillate between the what feel like his like pet projects, like those, and then the fun, flashy action adventure films.
Exactly. So
I still wish he'd gotten to do The Hobbit.
Yeah, I know, me too.
Yes.
Did you guys see the third Hobbit one?
Yeah, I liked the third
Did
Hobbit.
You? Don't get Brendan started then.
I'm not saying a damn thing.
It was, and the last hour and a half was one battle sequence. I mean, but I appreciated that. I like battle sequences.
Yeah. See, I still had a lot of issues with it, but it is my favorite of the three. I still had some fun with it.
It didn't bore me like the first two did.
Yeah.
So, but I think we're forgetting. I think we're forgetting the best release coming out. on April 17th, Paul Blart, Mall Cop 2.
How is that movie being made? Seriously, why is that being made?
I think the first one did pretty well, actually. I think it made quite a bit of money.
God.
So yeah, let's make number 2.
And it's like the grown-up movies. Why do people go see that? Why? I don't understand it. It's because of people like Nate. That's why. It's who I blame it on.
No, I watch those illegally.
Nate watches those illegally.
FBI is in the door.
Hey, another one I wanted to mention was the David O. Russell film with Jennifer Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence, yeah.
Bradley Cooper and De Niro again.
Yeah,
that should be interesting.
Yep.
In my
love
opinion,
her.
he directs her best of anybody. So
I agree. Yeah.
Did you guys hear about David O. Russell's other film coming out that
Nailed,
he didn't even want his
retitled
name
that
attached to?
Yeah, he's completely against the project. Yeah.
Yeah, what did they retitle
I thought that was
as?
kind of funny.
Yeah, I can't remember what they renamed it.
Oh, Accidental Love.
Yeah.
Accidental Love. Yeah.
When I saw the trailer for it, it looked like his name wasn't even shown as the director anymore. Do you guys know anything about that?
Yeah, from my knowledge, he's not. I think he gets like a story by credit or something like that, but the credit for director is someone else. I think even the script and the screenplay.
It looked like a travesty. I mean, I remember reading about the project like 3 years ago when he was working on it. And this is a great concept, really dark, really weird. And then I see this and I'm like, this looks like just normal, terrible romantic comedy that I don't want to see.
Because it's got Jake Gyllenhaal in it, who I've loved everything he's done lately, and now this crap's coming out. Maybe I'll just pretend it doesn't exist, and then it won't, ruin that.
Yeah, I see Kirstie Alley's name. That's not a good sign.
If it was the 80s, it would be great, but it's not.
Apparently, Pee Wee Herman's in it, too. I'm more excited to see that.
Oh, yes, he is. Oh, yeah.
Paul Rubens.
Oh, man.
You guys forgot to mention Magic Mike XXL. That's
hell yeah.
Obviously,
Can't wait for
everybody's
that.
going to see that together, right?
Right after 50 Shades of Grey.
Double feature. So Scott, I can't remember the name of the film, so you have to forgive me, but I know, so in 2013, one of our favorite films was Blue is the Warmest Color. That director has a new one coming out this year as well, so.
Yeah, Abdullah Teef Kashish. We had to practice that so much that I remember.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. So another one, I don't know the director or who all is involved, but it's another foreign language film called A War. I think it's a Danish film, but I'm pretty interested in it because it's about the Iraq War, but from their country's perspective, which is something we haven't seen a ton of before either. Obviously, it's all American, pro-us, way to go, USA, Iraq War, Afghanistan. And this is from a completely different perspective, so I'm pretty curious about that one as well.
Definitely.
I'm looking at your list, and we got a new Spielberg movie with Tom Hanks. Cold War movie. That'll be
Doesn't
awesome.
matter what it is, I'll see it.
Completely untitled. And it's funny because if you look online at every anticipated list of 2015, it's all Untitled Spielberg Project with Tom Hanks. That's the name of it.
That's what it's called. That gets people in the seat.
They're
Those are
magic
people in the
together. They
seats,
really
yeah.
are.
Yeah.
It could be titled that, and people would go see it. I would.
Hell yeah.
And I forgot about Kingsman, The Secret Service.
Yes.
Yeah, Matthew Vaughn.
Yeah, which being pushed back, I was kind of concerned about it, but the more trailers that I've seen, I'm actually more excited for it. I've loved everything Matthew Vaughn has touched. I think this is also a Mark Miller comic book that it's adapted from, and his meshing with Mark Miller has just been fantastic. So
I've heard early talks from early screenings of Kingsman. Apparently, they're saying it's Matthew Vaughn's best film.
Gosh,
wow, that's a lot to say because he's made some good movies.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for it. I'm not sure why it got pushed back to begin with. Do you guys know? Because it was supposed to come out in late October last year, and then it got pushed to early of 2015. So I'm not sure why, but I'm excited for it. Yeah,
I'll tell you what. There's one movie that I'm more fascinated by right now, and it's the new film from Ridley Scott called The Martian. And Ridley Scott has been kind of on a creative tailspin these last couple of years, I think.
Yeah.
But I do think when
less excited for that.
Yeah, but when he deals with sci-fi, I usually am fascinated by it. First off, Alien and Blade Runner are phenomenal. As much as I was disappointed by Prometheus, I was still fascinated by it. I blame the script more than anything else more than the directing I did. But The Martian, if you look at the cast in that film, it is incredible. You've got Matt Damon, Jessica Chastain, Kate Mara, Kristen Wiig, Sean Bean, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Jeff Daniels, I mean, this just looks like a great cast in general.
Yeah, we also said the same thing about The Counselor a few years ago, and that couldn't have been a worse film.
You just stole my thunder because I was just going to go into that.
Yeah.
How the heck did you screw that up?
Because it's the new Ridley Scott, who makes terrible movies with good cast members. So I don't know.
Poor guy.
What do you guys think about Jurassic World? Will this be a good step in the right direction? What do you guys think of the trailer?
I'm hoping so. I mean, the kid in me is just really excited because I grew up on Jurassic Park, and I mean, still one of my favorite older action films. But I mean, Chris Pratt's, I think is fairly safe casting now after Guardians of the Galaxy. He's really proved his ability to handle the serious moments too, and not just do comedic work. So I think he can balance it well. But I'm hopeful for it, but I don't know if it's gonna rise to the level of the first one for me.
Interesting. What about you guys, Scott? Anything to add to that?
I'd just say I hope it's better than 2 and 3.
Yeah, no kidding.
It can be better than that.
Mm-hmm.
Nate, you excited?
I mean, in terms of excitement, as far as up there with Avengers or Star Wars, no. But I really like the director. He did Safety Not Guaranteed, and I love that movie.
Good movie. Yeah.
So,
Same here.
But he has a big budget. It's a big budget movie.
Well, Brendan, leave it to episode 100 for us to have a technical catastrophe of sorts. I have to apologize for the ending to this podcast. I lost about the last 20 or 30 minutes of the recording, hence the weird cut to this right now. And here we are. Nate did stick around. Nate, thanks for sticking around.
I remember when these used to happen on a regular basis.
But
I hope the forces of God are not trying to tell us something right now.
I hope not. You know, it's funny, Nate. I mean, we did used to have things like this happen, but we would just re-record. Everything would be fine and dandy in the end. But I didn't really see the technical wrongdoings until after the fact, and Matthew and Scott had already left. So here we are recording the end of the show without them. But, you know, it happens, right? And, of course, it's going to happen on episode 100. I should have known that was going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, all that being said, I do want to thank you, Nate, and I want to thank Matthew and Scott for everything that you guys have done as far as being on the show, all the work that you've prepared, the movies that you saw to be on the show. I've absolutely loved having you guys on the show. I've loved seeing where you guys have gone after the podcast and seeing you guys succeed in your lives. I've absolutely loved it. It's meant a lot to me having you guys here on the show, and it's just been an amazing experience. You guys have really made this a really rich experience for me. And so while I look forward to what 2015 will be with Brendan and others on the show, I can't thank you enough, Nate, and the other guys who aren't here right now, unfortunately. But I do want to thank you guys. It's been an amazing ride. I can't thank you guys enough.
Yeah, thanks for having me on this special 100 episode.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. As soon as I was thinking about episode 100, I absolutely wanted to go back to the reason we started this, was having, conversations about movies with the guys that I love the most, and that just made sense. So, I'm glad that you were able to be here. I really appreciate it. So I look forward to having you guys still guest throughout the year, on the main show or extra film or whatever. So I really look forward to it. And Matthew and Scott, I know you guys aren't here, but if you're listening,
what are you talking about? We're right here.
The same goes to you guys as well. You guys better come back on the show because I've loved having you guys on as well. All right, well, that should do it for episode 100. Really, really fun show, despite technical errors that we had here near the end. But next week on the show, there's going to be a fun announcement that I cannot wait to reveal. So make sure you stay tuned for episode 101 for that. Also, go listen to our latest extra film where Brendan and we discussed Inherent Vice and Selma, which was a really fun podcast. Really, really great discussion there. And for next week's extra film, we're going to discuss a little film from 1941 called Citizen Kane. which I look forward to getting into as well.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I think Brendan said the same thing on our extra film this last week.
Yeah. Is that some kind of like pornography or something like that? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, our first porn film that we're going to be discussing on the show. So no, that should be a lot of fun. And next week on our main show, we're going to be discussing American Sniper and A Most Violent Year, as well as our top 5 most anticipated of 2015. So we're really rich and fun show that's going to be. Very, very, very good stuff there. So before we get out of here, thanks, Nate, once again, and thanks, Matthew and Scott, for being on. Loved it. Thanks for all your work again, man.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Brendan. I look forward to what we have in store this year for the show. It's going to be a lot of fun.
For sure.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you guys next time on the InSession Film Podcast. For the entire version of our podcast, be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or on Stitcher, or check us out online at InSessionFilm.com.